If you have panic attacks while driving, you really need to watch this video. Panic attacks while driving is actually one of the most common things that anxiety sufferers face. And what can happen is that they can avoid driving altogether. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the misconceptions people have about panic attacks and driving. And more importantly, by the end of the video, I'm going to show you exactly what to do to overcome this and go back to live once and for all. Let's get started. Panic attacks while driving is a little bit extra unique. Typically, anxiety sufferers get these physical symptoms, get these intrusive thoughts, getting these feelings of unreality, but they also experience panic attacks. Now, here's the thing about people who struggle with panic attacks while driving. What it ends up actually doing is that driving becomes such a daily activity for so many individuals that when people experience panic attacks, they often avoid driving. When they have panic attacks in certain situations, they tend to avoid the situation. Now, a daily activity like driving can really lower the quality of life for people that struggle with panic attacks. And so the first thing I really want to bring up is really a lot of the misconceptions that happen with people struggling with panic attacks and driving. See, what happens is when people have panic attacks while driving, they tend to avoid driving. Now, typically, people would notice these individuals and think that driving was the issue. They would be afraid that driving was the problem. But anxiety sufferers know that it's actually not driving that's the issue. The issue is what happens when you get a panic attack and you're on the road. See, panic attacks are great at tricking people. It's really easy to think that when you have a panic attack, you can lose control, you'll go crazy, you'll pass out. Everybody has their own fears. But the truth is that panic attacks are just a trickster. And here's the thing, when people have panic attacks in other situations, most situations tend to be pretty passive, meaning if they have a panic attack, they can just let it happen. In fact, a lot of recovery is about letting panic attacks just happen. But what happens when you're operating a vehicle, when you're actually having to be in control? Being passive isn't actually very easy. So one of the first things to really understand, first and foremost, is doing an audit on yourself. Really asking yourself, okay, am I a reckless driver? Am I a dangerous driver? Because if that's the issue, you probably need to get that resolved first. But the truth is, everyone that I meet that struggles with this, everyone that I help overcome this, they're fine drivers. In fact, they're better drivers than most people because at least they're alert. Some drivers will be on their phone, they'll be texting, they'll be driving, they'll be doing all these different things. But people that struggle with panic attacks while driving, they tend to be really alert. But here's the thing, when people are struggling with panic attacks and driving, they really don't have much confidence. They're afraid, what happens if I lose control? What if I accidentally hurt somebody? But a lot of this comes from a misconception about panic attacks. And the first misconception is when a panic attack happens, you don't lose control. Often what happens is when people have a panic attack, they have this feeling that they are going to lose control. And so what happens is that when people have panic attacks, especially on the road, they tend to avoid places where they can escape. This is why people when they struggle with panic attacks, they often avoid highways and freeways the most. Because when you're in a highway or a freeway, cars are moving very fast and it's not as easy to escape. And so what happens is that you find anxiety sufferers and panic attack sufferers avoid freeways. And so they always go through the essentially, I guess, like the side roads or the neighborhood roads, as a way in case they need to escape or stop somewhere, they can do it easily. But the first misconception is the fact that you are never going to lose control. See, panic attacks are great at making you think you lose control, but that's actually not true. Even in active activity like driving, you wouldn't be losing control. In fact, the people that we've helped overcome this, they're fantastic drivers. Everything is okay. They're good, and all that needs to happen is that they experience a few panic attacks while driving, and then what they see is that even though these panic attacks aren't fun, they're not comfortable, they're still accessible to drive while experiencing it. And so the first thing to understand is you're not going to lose control. Now this leads me to the second misconception, which is this idea that you may pass out from a panic attack. Now this is a very common fear a lot of people have. In fact, when you have a panic attack, you may even notice that you may have rapid heartbeats, like palpitations. You may even feel like you're not getting enough oxygen. And so when you're driving and you're not getting enough oxygen, what happens if you pass out? You don't want to hurt somebody, you don't want to hurt yourself. It makes sense logically, but here's the thing. That's another trick that panic attacks do. See, panic attacks are due to the fight or flight response. It's an innate mechanism designed to protect you. And so what happens is that when people experience a panic attack, your body's gearing up to either fight a threat or run away. So what is one of the things it has to do? Well, one of the first things it has to do is get extra oxygen. Why does it need to get extra oxygen? Well, if it needs to run away, it needs more oxygen. If it needs to fight something for a sustained period of time, it needs extra oxygen. So how does it do that? Well, one of the ways it's able to get extra oxygen is by making you feel like you're not getting enough. This is why when people are experiencing panic attacks and they feel like they're not getting enough oxygen, the truth is they were always getting enough oxygen. In fact, if you compare someone who has a panic attack to someone who is absolutely not having any anxiety, the person that has a panic attack is actually less likely to pass out because they're getting more than enough oxygen. Passing out kind of happens from not getting enough oxygen. And so the second misconception is this fear of passing out, which is, again, another trick of panic attacks. Now, if you really want to know more about the mechanics of anxiety, the mechanics of panic attacks, it's actually very important for people to recover, to understand what's happening. One of the first things I have all my clients do is really help them understand what's happening. If you don't know what's happening, fears like this can escalate and snowball. And what this does is that it can make you avoid certain things, like, for example, driving, which is such a daily activity. If you understood a few things, that how a panic attack works, how they really can't hurt you, how to actually overcome them, well, when you feel these feelings, you won't be as fearful of them. Now, what happens is when you're not fearful of them, the symptoms will still be there, but they will end up disappearing long term. You won't add fuel into this fire of panic. And so if you really want to know more about how to overcome it, I'll put a link down below to essentially a book that I've written out. This breaks down step by step, really going even more into detail about how to overcome this once and for all. This book is absolutely free. I'm not charging you. It's something I wish I would have had during my recovery journey. It would have really sped things up. It would have really eliminated a lot of the confusion, and I want to help you on your recovery journey as well. So the link is down below. Definitely check it out. Now, the last thing I want to mention from helping people around the world, the people that are fearful of having a panic attack while driving typically get their first panic attack in the car. That's not always the case, but what I find typically when people are really fearful of driving, it's typically because they had their first panic attack in the car. Now, I want to get into this a little bit more because it may be something you're struggling with right now. Typically, here's what happens. When somebody experiences a panic attack in a car or anywhere, they don't really know it's a panic attack in the beginning. I was the exact same way. When I had a panic attack, I was at work and I didn't know what it was. I actually thought I was gonna die. And so what happened was that I got really scared. And typically when people have a panic attack in the car, they're absolutely terrified. They don't know it's a panic attack until later. Now, something happens when you have a panic attack. When there's a panic attack, what really is happening at a physiological level is your body thinks there's a threat. So what your body does is it actually takes a screenshot of where you are in your environment. So if you were in the car, your body kind of remembers that. It recognizes that Shaan was in the car when he was in this fight or flight response, when his life was in danger, even though there was no threat. But your body can't really decide what's a threat or what's not. It looks at you for that. So here's what happens. When somebody has a panic attack for the first time in the car, the body takes a snapshot. Now, what happens is that the next time they're in a car or they're in a situation that kind of resembles a car, what happens is that the body remembers and it says, Shaan, you've been here before. Last time you were here, there was a danger. So what happens is that their body kind of gets a panic attack again. And so what happens is sometimes people are fine. They may not even experience panic attacks anywhere else except in the car. And the reason why this happens is because your body is designed to protect you. If it has seen a threat somewhere, if it sees a similar location, it's gonna think, well, last time Shaan was there, there's a threat. There's a possibility that there may be a threat again. My job is to keep Shaan alive. So you have to understand that sometimes your body will create panic attacks while driving. Now, this doesn't have to be a permanent thing. In fact, if you just focus on a few things, you can overcome this once and for all. So the first key is really understanding the mechanics, recognizing that panic attacks don't hurt you, and then having a solution to overcome the panic attacks. Now, the truth is that recovery occurs when you face it, not when you avoid it. What happens is that when people avoid the panic attacks, anxiety ends up generalizing, hence the term generalized anxiety disorder. So the focus on recovery is actually the opposite. It's facing it, but not just facing it, having a plan to face it. So if you really want to know more about how to overcome this, really having a step-by-step guide, having people that have gone through this themselves guide you by the hand and take you step-by-step to recovery, well, why don't we just do it together? I have a team of individuals. Most of these guys struggle with the exact same thing, which was panic attacks while driving. Now they're driving all the time. One of my clients, Caesar, who I'll put a link down below, he's now one of the head coaches. In my opinion, he's probably one of the best coaches in the world. And he struggled with the exact same thing. Now, what's ironic is once he overcame this, he even drove down all the way here to Austin to come visit me. And, you know, we filmed a video together kind of sharing his anxiety story. So don't think that this is a permanent thing. In fact, Caesar even enjoys driving now. He drives all the time. And so you can be like that too. You can get to full freedom. And Caesar is just one of the many people that have gone through this. So if you just focus on a few steps, you can get to full freedom. So if you really want to have someone guide you step by step, get you to recovery, well, you can apply for mentorship, where me and my team will take you by the hand and guide you to recovery. We won't let you go until you fully recover. So the link is down below. When you hit the link, it will take you to a sign-up page. You watch a short video followed by an application. My team and I will review that application. If you're a good fit, we'll have a call together and we'll see if this is a good fit. If not, that's totally cool. We'll give you a bunch of resources. And if you are a good fit and if you want to work together, we will invite you to the program. So the link is down below. Check it out. I'll see you in the next one.